My brothers and sisters, I have been saying that not every power you see in the church comes from God. Some prophets stand on pulpits on Sunday, but their true altar is under the sea. This is the dark truth behind a prophet's power, his shocking initiation with marine spirits, a covenant that cost him his soul, his family, and even his life. Stay with us, because what you're about to hear will expose secrets that many church leaders would rather keep hidden. And as you listen, don't forget, subscribe to this channel, turn on your notifications, and share this video so others can be won. Because not every miracle is holy, and not every prophet belongs to Christ.
When I look back now, I realize God had tried to warn me. But at that time, I was just a young woman, filled with excitement, nervousness, and the sweet pressure of preparing for marriage. Both families had already met, conversations had gone far, and it was understood that in a matter of months, I would be a wife. He was a young prophet, respected in our town in Tokorodi, Ghana. To many, he was a man of God, eloquent in prayer, strong on the pulpit, and always carrying himself as though heaven itself answered his call. My parents adored him, and even my uncles who rarely trusted preachers gave their blessing. For me, it was a dream come true. I thought I had found both a husband and a spiritual covering for my life. But then came that night. I still remember it as though it happened yesterday. I was asleep in my small room, my wedding dress still being stitched by the tailor, my heart full of plans for the future. Somewhere deep in the night, my spirit was lifted into a place I cannot fully explain. I found myself standing before a vast, endless ocean. The waves roared, not like normal water, but as though voices were inside them, whispering and chanting. I could hear my name being called, over and over. Then, beneath the waters, I saw altars. Strange, glowing altars built with stones, candles, and sacrifices I cannot name. Around them stood figures, dressed in long flowing robes, with eyes that glowed like fire. Their hands were lifted, as though they were conducting a service under the sea. And in the middle of that altar, I saw him, my prophet, the man I was preparing to marry. But he was not dressed like the pastor I knew. He wore the same robes as the rest, his hands lifted in worship, but not to God. His worship was directed to a dark figure seated on a throne, half man, half beast, whose presence carried a weight of fear that I had never felt in my life. I tried to run. I tried to shout. But my legs were heavy, and my voice locked in my throat. Then suddenly, a hand reached out from the water, long and cold, trying to pull me in. I felt myself sinking, drowning, as voices chanted louder, "She belongs to us, she belongs to us." I woke up screaming, drenched in sweat, trembling so badly I could not hold the blanket. My heart pounded as if I had truly been underwater. I remember kneeling on the floor and praying the only prayer I knew, "God, protect me. God, protect me." But I told no one. Not my parents. Not my closest friend. Not even him. How could I? Who would believe such a dream when all eyes were fixed on our upcoming marriage? I convinced myself it was just a nightmare, nothing more. I buried it inside, smiled through the wedding preparations, and told myself life would be fine. But what I did not know then was that this was not a nightmare. It was a revelation. A warning from God Himself that I was walking into a covenant, not a marriage. A covenant that would later shatter everything I thought I knew about life, love, and ministry. Looking back now, I realize I should have paid attention. That vision was the key that explained everything He later confessed. God showed me first, but I did not understand. And because I did not understand, I almost became a part of something that was never of Him. When I finally gathered courage to refuse the marriage, the shock that swept through both families was like fire. My parents could not understand. My uncles accused me of dishonoring our name. His church members whispered that I was jealous, that maybe I had found another man. No one knew the secret burning inside me. I only told them, I cannot continue. Something is not right. I moved away from our town, leaving behind the preparations, the gossip, and the shame. I just wanted distance, distance from him, from the whispers, from the strange fear that still clung to me after that dream. It was during this time, in my place of hiding, that I met a seer. I hadn't gone looking for her. In fact, it was in the market, a casual encounter, when she stopped me and said words that froze my blood. "Young woman, there is a covenant tied to you. You must confront the man you were with. If not, his sacrifice will continue to eat at your life." At first, I wanted to walk away. But then she looked at me, her eyes sharp, and said, "Even though you did not marry him, you have laid with him." That was enough. He used that as part of his covenant. If you do not break it, you will carry the consequences of his initiation. I remember my knees going weak. My heart pounded. Could it be true? Was that why my spirit still felt chained, even after walking away? I told my family. They did not believe at first. But when strange sickness began to weigh me down, and sleepless nights tormented me with dreams of water altars, they agreed something had to be done. We summoned him. Not privately. No, we brought him before the chief's palace, in front of elders and witnesses. I will never forget that day. He walked in with confidence, dressed in his clerical collar, his Bible tucked under his arm. At first, he denied everything. He lifted his hands and swore he was innocent, that I was fabricating lies, that perhaps demons were using me to destroy his ministry. His voice was smooth, his arguments strong. Some of the elders even nodded, almost ready to dismiss my claims. But then, as the elders pressed harder, as the chief himself asked him to swear before the ancestral stool, his voice began to shake. And in that moment, the mask slipped. He confessed. Not in full at first, but enough. Enough to silence everyone. Enough to make my blood run cold. He admitted that when he was initiated, he used me, our intimacy, as part of the sacrifice that bound him to the powers of the marine world. Gasps filled the palace. My family cried out in anger. I wanted to run, to scream, but my legs felt paralyzed. All I could think of was that dream, that night when I saw his hands lifted at the water altar. It was true. God had shown me. Later, when the noise died down and the palace meeting was over, he came to me and my parents privately. His face was no longer proud. His voice was broken. For the first time, he told me why. He said life had been too hard. His ministry was failing, his family was poor, and no matter how much he prayed, the church would not grow. He was desperate. And then, during a long journey to the north, he met an older man on the bus. They talked. At first, it was casual. But then the man leaned close and said words he never forgot, "I see your suffering. I can help you." That was the beginning. That was the door that opened to his initiation with the Marine Kingdom. And so, that night in my room, when I had seen him at the water altar, it was not just a dream. It was the very covenant he had entered. A covenant sealed not only with his own soul, but with mine, without my knowledge, without my consent. When he finally opened his mouth to tell me everything, I felt my world collapse. These were not things you hear in ordinary conversations. These were not stories for the faint-hearted. These were secrets that men take to their graves. Yet on that day, he laid it bare. He told us that after the bus encounter with the man's words cut deeper. "I see your suffering," he said. "You are a pastor, but your hands are empty. Your prayers are loud, but your church is small. Your life is full of fasting, but your table has no food. Why waste your life like this when I can help you?" At first, he was offended. But curiosity held him captive. The man spoke as though he could see into his very soul. And when they parted ways in Harare, the old man gave him an instruction: "Meet me. If you want true power, I will show you where it is found." 3 days later, curiosity and desperation dragged him there. The place was an abandoned building on the outskirts of the city. He expected maybe a prayer meeting, maybe something harmless. But when he entered, the air was thick with incense, and the walls painted with strange symbols. At the center stood a bowl of water, clear as crystal, with candles burning around it. The old man was there. And with him were two others, their faces veiled. Power comes from sacrifice, the old man told him. If you want your church to grow, if you want wealth, if you want respect, you must give something in exchange. The first ritual was simple, almost laughable. They gave him a white cloth, a bottle of oil, and told him to pray over the bowl of water. But as he prayed, the water began to move, not like normal ripples, but as if something alive was stirring within it. He felt a cold hand brush against his own, though no one was near. That night, they instructed him to lie with a woman, not any woman, but someone he was tied to emotionally. That was where I unknowingly entered into his covenant. He thought nothing of it at the time. But later, he realized it was part of the sacrifice, a way of transferring my innocence into his initiation. He said, they took him near a river under the cover of night. There, he was told to undress and step into the water while chanting words he did not understand. As the water reached his waist, he felt something wrap around his legs. Fear gripped him, but the old man commanded, do not run. If you leave now, you will die. Out of the water rose a figure, half woman, half serpent. Her beauty was unnatural, her eyes glowing like the moon on a dark night. She stretched her hands and touched his forehead, whispering in a voice both sweet and terrifying, from today, you are mine. Your words will carry weight. Your prayers will bring signs. But your seed belongs to me. He said. He collapsed in the water. When he woke, he was on the riverbank, trembling. In his hand was a charm, a small seashell tied with red thread. From that day, instructions began to follow him. He was told to always keep the seashell in a dark cold place. He was told that before major services, he must anoint himself not with olive oil, but with a mixture given by the old man. He was warned never to speak against marine powers in church. Instead, he was to subtly honor them through songs and offerings. And indeed, the results were immediate. His church began to swell with people. Miracles happened, but not the miracles of God. Yet, to the public eye, it looked like he carried divine power. But with every service, with every miracle, he felt himself sinking deeper into bondage. He confessed that sometimes, in the middle of the night, he would feel the same serpent woman lying beside him. He would wake up drenched in sweat, the sheets wet as though he had been in water. Sometimes, he said, she demanded more intimacy, more loyalty. If he refused, his body would weaken, his church offerings would drop. And the hardest truth for me to bear, he admitted that my own life was tied to his covenant because of the intimacy we had before marriage. He had used me unknowingly as part of the exchange. His words broke me. Because what I saw in my dream that night, the water altar, the figures, the dark throne, was exactly what he described. God had shown me before he confessed. And now, every word confirmed the vision that I had buried in silence. When the palace confrontation ended and the prophet finally confessed, I thought perhaps there would be peace. Because he was asked to do certain rituals and cleansing for me. But peace never came. Again, the shame was too much for him, the whispers in the community too loud. Within weeks, he left Tokoradi. Because that is where his church was. I do not know where he actually went to. And truthfully, I never cared to follow. I never saw him again. I do not know if he still stands on a pulpit today. I do not know if he still calls himself a prophet. What I do know is that the covenant he entered was real, and the price of it was terrifying. As for me, life moved on, but not without scars. I was young, and I carried wounds that no one could see. Every time I closed my eyes, I remembered the water altar. Every time I tried to trust again, the words of the seer echoed in my ears, "You were part of his sacrifice." But today, I speak not to dig up my past, but to give a warning, especially to women. My sisters, be careful. Be careful of these so-called prophets. Be careful of the altars you kneel at. Be careful of the men who touch you in the name of prayer. Many are not servants of God. Many stand on pulpits but bow before altars you cannot see. Some of you, in your desperation for marriage, for children, for miracles, you keep running from church to church, prophet to prophet. But not every church is of Christ. Not every prophet carries the Spirit of God. Some of them have sold themselves to marine spirits, to dark powers, and every hand they lay on you ties your soul a little deeper into their covenant. I never married him. That was God's mercy. But what about the women who are wives today, sleeping beside prophets who are priests of the sea? What about the daughters being dragged to midnight prayers that are nothing but sacrifices to dark kingdoms? What about the innocent church members, sowing their money on altars that only feed demons? My heart breaks because I know, if not for God's warning in that dream, I would have been trapped forever. I would have been his wife, raising children under a covenant I never agreed to. My life would have been tied to his destruction. So hear me well, this is my warning: stop running from church to church. Test the spirits. Seek Christ for yourself. Do not be deceived by miracles, by sweet tongues, by promises of quick blessings. Some powers are not holy. Some prayers are not to God. If you must kneel, kneel before Christ alone. If you must submit, submit to the word of God, not to a man who calls himself a prophet. I escaped narrowly. I carry scars, yes. But I live to tell this story so that perhaps another woman, another sister, will open her eyes before it is too late.
You've heard it for yourself. A woman who almost married into darkness, almost gave her life to a covenant she never agreed to, and yet by God's mercy, he revealed the truth before it was too late. But this is not just her story. This is a mirror to the church today. The Bible warns us that not everyone who holds a Bible belongs to Christ. Not everyone who prays loudly on the pulpit carries the Spirit of God. Some are vessels of marine spirits, of occult powers, of dark covenants hidden beneath white robes. Let us not be deceived by miracles, by prophecies, by promises of breakthrough. Remember the words of Jesus in Matthew 24 verse 24, "For false Christ and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect." The woman you just heard escaped because of God's warning. But how many are trapped today? How many wives sleep beside men who are priests of the sea, not pastors of Christ? How many church members kneel at altars that drain their life instead of giving it? How many people are sacrificing their peace, their money, their children's destinies, at the feet of prophets whose true power comes from the deep waters? Hear me, child of God, this is the time to wake up. If your faith is built on a man, you are already in danger. If your salvation depends on a prophet's oil, a prophet's water, or a prophet's touch, you are already enslaved. Christ is enough, his word is enough, his blood is enough. Do not jump from church to church, chasing after miracles. Do not give your body, your money, your loyalty to any man who claims to carry power. Instead, test the spirits as 1 John 4 verse 1 commands us. Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, for many false prophets have gone out into the world. This channel exists for one reason: to open your eyes. To pull back the veil that so many pastors and prophets use to cover their true altars. Not to destroy churches, but to call people back to Christ. Because at the end of the day, salvation is not in a man. Salvation is in Jesus alone. So I challenge you today, examine your faith. Examine your pastor. Examine your altar. Where does the power come from? Who are you really following? If this message has opened your eyes, don't just stop here. Share it. Let others hear. Subscribe, so you don't miss more of these confessions and warnings. And above all, take this moment to recommit your life to Christ, not to a prophet, not to a church name, but to the one who died for you. Because one day, every hidden covenant will be exposed. And only those who stand on Christ, the solid rock, will not be shaken.